talking Illinois high school football.
If your goals are as high as you talk about, tonight's the night you go out and just take one more step.
It's a view from the West.
And it starts right now!
Welcome into View from the West podcast, brought to you by Breedlove Sporting Goods, part of the River Rivals Media Network, the podcast covering Illinois high school football on the western side of the state of Illinois. I'm your host, Greg Armstrong, and breaking news, no quarterback controversy here. For the sixth season in a row, Mitch Stormer, QB1 for View from the West podcast. So, Mitch, welcome back behind the line of scrimmage. You're leading the offense here.
I got a bit of a gripe for you, Greg, because at the kickoff party, you said that when you were talking to Cale Filler and Colin Schweigen, that they were two best quarterbacks you've ever talked to. And I wasn't there to defend myself, and I'm not even going to say if that's true or not, because we all know that it is. But it's just the fact that you said it in front of the many fans and coaches and players that were there that night. It hurt my feelings, Greg.
Can we say with a relative amount of certainty that of any of the media members or personalities we've had on this show, you are definitely the best quarterback? You're better than me. You're better than Dazzo.
Now I got to think of who we've had on the show, but that at least narrows it down a little bit where I'd have a fighting chance. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. I don't want to go in the realm of coaches, because the coaches we've talked to over the years, one of them may have been a quarterback over the years. So I can't speak to that definitively, but
again, the bar to best my quarterback history is very, very low. It just hurt my feelings that you said it. That's all.
All right. Well, apologies, Mitch, and that it's a helpless feeling. You weren't even there to defend yourself, but yep. I was complimenting the student athletes that were in the room at the time.
That's fair. Yeah, okay. That's fair.
There we go. So game week is officially upon us. If you're watching or listening to this, you likely already know that we've done a deep dive preview for all the conferences that we cover. The Western Big Six, the Three Rivers, the Big Northern, the Lincoln Land, the Northwest Upstate Illini, and 8-man football. If you missed any of them, of course, they are all available in the View from the West archives. And if you're counting, Mitch, it clocked in at around 433 minutes. That's just over 7 hours of podcast previews. I'd say we pretty definitively covered our area.
I would say so. I'm glad that you did the math on that. Certainly hope the viewers and listeners enjoyed that. We put in a lot of work this off season. So thank you to, of course, the coaches who responded to our contact form and our preseason form to get us this information, and really so we could do our homework and really get prepped for this very episode and what's coming up in about 5 days.
Yeah, I am really excited. You know, we're talking about the episodes that we've rolled out there, but how about we talk about the newest addition this season, the Instant Reacts, coming to you live every Friday night. I'm really excited about this. We tested some equipment, maybe accidentally went out live when we weren't expecting it, thanks to Jeremy Adolphson for a friendly reminder that we were, in fact, live while testing our audio. But we ran the test. We're ready to go. I'm feeling relatively confident that we'll be up and rolling Friday night. It's going to be great.
Yeah. The test worked better than we thought it would. So,
well, yeah, because we were actually live and we didn't expect
because we were actually live and didn't mean to. So, hopefully we don't not go live when we mean to on Friday night as a trial run. But everything that you've come to enjoy about the Instant Reacts podcast, all the banter, all the randomness, all the stalking, I think you can expect that to continue, but also probably be expanded upon. I feel like we're going to do things a little bit differently with the Instant Reacts. Certainly going live is new, but I think we have the capability now of getting some more live guests, if it's coaches, if it's players, certainly following a big win. So yeah, really looking forward to the Instant Reacts this year with our new software and going live, and certainly across our multiple social media channels. I think it's going to be great.
Yep. So just as a reminder, everyone, if you don't already, subscribe on YouTube, follow us on YouTube. That will give you the notification that we go live on Friday night. Otherwise, plan on being there 10:15 with scores, reaction from games from around our area. Mitch, like you referenced, it's going to be, the usual banter you come to expect, only in a live format. So fans of the show can react, can comment live, and we can put them up on the air. We can react to their comments as well. I think that's what makes it fun, is that there's a community of football fans that we kind of, have come to grow over the years, and it's going to be fun to interact with them live. They can comment on stuff, we can comment back at them and comment on the games we saw. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. You know how it is. After a Friday night, people are decompressing, right? They're winding down from what they just saw, and they want to talk about it. They want to know what scores. They want to know what happened. This is a perfect fit. I can't wait.
Yeah, this is, again, it's going to be something new. So will we be perfect on on Friday night? I don't know. But you might as well come and find out, right? Come and watch the show. Tell us what we're doing wrong. But more than anything, I think what everyone can agree on, it'll be great to be talking about results from week 1 of the 2025 football season.
Absolutely. Could not agree more. So a big reason that we are able to do what we do is because of our support from Breedlove Sporting Goods. Mitch, tell them all about our friends out in Kewanee.
Oh, yeah. Tonight's episode, as always, is brought to you by our friends at Breedlove Sporting Goods, Western Illinois' premier sporting goods store for uniforms, apparel, equipment, awards, and online team stores. They provide all the same sporting goods services as the big nationwide companies, but with a faster turnaround, and their uniform pricing is a fraction of the cost you're probably used to. They offer name brands such as Adidas, Under Armour, and Nike, and are extremely responsive with any inquiries. With primary focus on the western side of the state of Illinois, Breedlove Sporting Goods is the fastest way to outfit your team. Check them out on Facebook or at breedlovesports.com for more information.
We thank Breedloves. We love our partnership with Breedloves. And Mitch, you've probably already seen it. Have you done your shopping on the merch store? The View from the West merch is up and rolling.
I've done my window shopping. I have not officially got anything in the cart yet. A lot of good options there, so still trying to weigh my decisions here and, again, get geared up for this season.
Yep, so shirts, hoodies, hats, quarter zips, including our podcast gear, the retro and the rivalry merch. Find your fit for this fall football season. Buy it now. The store closes Wednesday night, August 27th at midnight. Mitch, what do you got your eye on? What product you like this year?
Well, I need a hoodie. There's a couple of traditional hoodies in different designs. I'm pretty sure there's a performance hoodie in there that might be a little bit of a different material. Certainly, I'm wearing my zip from last season. I love our retro stuff. Certainly be getting something 8-bit. No question about that. But again, I've just been window shopping because I'm trying to narrow it down. I'd like to buy it all, but I can't. So need to make a decision here, because by the time our listeners are hearing this on Tuesday morning, it will be tomorrow at midnight. So again, make sure you get those orders in ASAP before that store closes.
Absolutely. It is go time. It is time to place your orders right now. Mitch, I got to say, I live my life in quarter zips. Like, I love a good quarter zip. I love a performance hoodie, one of those dry fit type of hooded sweatshirts. We have those available. I might need to get one of those with the View from the West logo on it. And as you said, I love the retro 8-bit merch. I got to find myself one of those to grab as well.
Well, it looks like you're wearing a hat that I've never seen, Greg. What's the story with this hat?
So, yeah, Abby from Breedlove. Shout out to Abby. She is the one who coordinates it all, helps us, keeps everything up and rolling, keeps everything organized, really. Does a fantastic job. So we ordered these, for those watching on video, we ordered these, patches. And she asked me, well, what do you want to do with them? And I said, I don't know. I default to you and the merch, and where do we put them? And she said we could put them on a hat. So she showed up with the decal on the hat there. It's a nice new fit that I hadn't had yet. So
Right.
And my wife would disagree, but you can never have too many hats.
No, there's no such thing.
Yeah, exactly right. So get out there, buy your merch. Breedloves has the shop set up until Wednesday night, August 27th at midnight. So when you're listening to this, it's time to get ordering. It's time to get it ordered. So really excited. Thank you to everyone who's taken the time to already order something. I can't wait. when you get your stuff, if you wear it to a game, please send us photos, tag us on X. We want to see you out rocking that gear, wearing that merch. Breedloves would love to see it as well. So it's awesome. I can't wait. I can't wait to see people in the stands enjoying, football games. We'll talk about in a minute here, but it's just a really exciting time of year. So, of course, Breedlove Sporting Goods is our sponsor. They will once again be sponsoring our Player of the Week. That includes the popular Helmet Award. We have helmets back, Mitch, ready to customize with a player's stats from the week that he wins the award. I can't wait to ship those out. Last week, 9 helmets were out to across our area, big schools, small schools, everything in between. If you put up the numbers, we're going to send you a helmet, a Player of the Week helmet, thanks to Breedloves. We're going to add to it this year. I believe Breedloves is going to add some goodies to the basket, so there's going to be some good view from the West stuff coming your way along with the helmet, so more details to come on that, but thank you to Breedloves. But Mitch, they're not alone. Who else we thanking? Let's get into our sponsorships for 2025.
Yeah, great lineup here of sponsors this year. One that's returning. We want to thank Nate Neighbor, Financial Planning from Modern Woodmen of America. He was a sponsor last season, back on board once again. You've heard his commercials on this show the past couple of seasons, and he'll be sponsoring our Game of the Week once again this year.
Yep, very excited. Thank you to Nate. We also have Simulation Sports in Monmouth, Illinois, is back in this season. They are the official sponsor of our Three Rivers Athletic Conference coverage, so could not be more excited. Thank you to Scott for sticking with us and sponsoring the show. We're really excited to have Simulation Sports back on board.
Yeah, well, speaking of official sponsors of conferences that we cover, the Big Northern Conference this year is going to be sponsored by Byron Wealth Management. They've jumped in as an official sponsor this year as well. Sean Constantine and his team out there, we thank them for jumping on board as we jump on board with the Big Northern Conference.
Yep, we'll talk some Big Northern football in a few minutes here, but thank you to Byron Wealth Management. We also once again have to thank Fellowship of Christian Athletes, Dan Pearson, back on supporting what we do here on View from the West. Huge thank you to him. He hooks us up with great video highlights throughout the season. We can't be more appreciative of that because Dan Pearson is the GOAT when it comes to shooting high school football. So to get his video is like the top of the tops. We love it. We absolutely love it.
Yep, the man, Dan Pearson. Greg, I'll tell you what I'm excited about. A new sponsor this year, a new segment this year, one that we've really been trying to get on the show the past couple of years. You've heard me probably talk about it. We've always wanted to do something with the offensive line. We've always wanted to have an award for the big fellas up front. And boy, do we have a great sponsor this year. Godfather's Pizza in Silvis is in. They are going to be delivering. They've delivered pizza to feed everyone at the live show that you had at the kickoff show, which we can talk about that in a minute. They've agreed to be that sponsor of the offensive line of the week. The boys up front have a chance to earn themselves free pizza. So we thank our friends at Godfather's Pizza in Silvis for making this dream a reality, Greg.
Exactly. So, Mitch, we started the show talking about quarterbacks, but in front of every good quarterback is an offensive line. Do you want to give a shout out? Do you remember like some offensive linemen that kept your body safe in Morrison back in the day?
If I named like 2, I would forget 4. So
okay, that's fair.
Shout out to the 02, 03, 04, and 05 Morrison Mustangs. How about that?
Yeah, especially when you were like a sophomore or junior, and you're probably like terrified that you're about to get your butt kicked, and maybe you still did, but they were helping you stay a little bit safe back there. So.
Yeah, that didn't get hit on every play. So yeah,
so that's
shout out to those guys I played with. I can't name one because again I'll forget someone, but
that's fair.
But again, we've been wanting to do this. Every time we talk about a game recap, right? We usually focus on the skill players. Not all the time, but the concept of rewarding an offensive line has been in the works for a while. So really, really happy that we're going to be doing that this year.
Yep, really happy that Godfather's Pizza was all in. I believe Andy, the owner of Godfather's Pizza in Silvis, he was an offensive lineman himself. So he was very excited about this award.
That's fun.
Yep. We got a couple other sponsorship things in the works. So hopefully we'll add a couple other announcements in the next week or so. But thank you to everyone who's reached out, who is committed to supporting View from the West this season and supporting local high school football in 2025. We're really excited to get up and rolling. And if you simply want to support the podcast as an individual, there's an easy way you can do that. You can head directly to PayPal. Just head to paypal.me/View from West Pod, or simply go to PayPal, log in, search for View from the West or View from West Pod. You'll find us there. Feel free to support in any way you feel like. Also, just support us by sharing that you're listening, that you're watching along, telling people that you're watching, just spreading the word about what we're doing here. I think that would be great, especially as we move into the Big Northern Conference. Just let people know what we're doing here would be excellent. So, all right, Mitch, before we get into our kind of week 1 preview, I wanted to take a look back kind of at our season previews. There's a few teams that after I kind of, looked through everything, and I wasn't on every show, I wasn't on every episode, and there was an episode or two that you missed as well. So I kind of want to look back and just maybe think about some teams that are dark horse candidates this season, that maybe we weren't talking about them necessarily at the top of the conference or predicting them to have a chance to win the conference, but maybe that we think if things go right, if things work out perfect for these teams, that's a team that could be dangerous. So have you thought about it? Do you have one, or I can start?
I feel like I could probably pick one from any conference. So how about you give me a conference and I'll give you a team.
Okay. Let's start in the Western Big Six, because I had one that kind of has been, picking at me the last few weeks or the last week or so after we did our preview.
You want to say it on the count of 3? We'll see if we match.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Geneseo.
That was beautiful. That was beautiful podcasting right there.
Guys, that was unplanned. We did not even remotely talk about this segment prior. That was on the money.
Nope. I just think the more that I've thought about it and the more that we've kind of talked about Geneseo, I just think with Kai Wines-Arrow back and Jackson McAvoy back at quarterback, plus you're in, and a lot of other returning players as well, under a system now that they're comfortable with a year in, I just think that, there are going to be some tough games in the Western Big Six with teams we've talked about, the Moline, the Quincy, the United Township. But I think, man, that if they surprise one or two of those teams, they're right in the mix.
Yeah. And I for the exact same reasons you just said, Coach Furlong in his second year, if you've heard interviews that either we've had or interviews that any of the TV stations have had, it sounds like he's happy with where this Maple Leaf team is at and where they are progressing. He thinks they're ahead of schedule at this point, certainly from where they were last year. Obviously, it's always going to be that way in your second year. But yeah, the names that they've got back, the way that they finished last year, getting into the playoffs, certainly had that playoff win. That's huge momentum for the program. And even in a playoff loss to DePaul, the team that went on to win 4A, that's great experience for this group. So, yeah, I don't think we talked about Geneseo enough. Even during the preview, I thought that we're talking about Quincy, we're talking about Moline, we're talking about UT. In the back of my head, I'm just like, Geneseo can win against any one of those teams this week. Or the season, I'm sorry.
Yep.
We'll get a taste of that here in week 1 against a really tough Rochelle team, and we'll wait to talk about that here for a couple minutes. But I am really excited to see what Geneseo brings to the table.
Yep, absolutely. They were a team that when I wanted to talk about this segment, they were one of the first teams that came to mind. So, all right, you got somebody else? You got one or two more teams maybe we'll go through here?
Let's do it again. Pick a conference.
I'm going to say the Northwest Upstate Illini.
Okay. And this can't be really a team. Let's just get it out of the way, right? We talk about Lena Winslow. We've talked about Stockton.
I would say those two are the big ones. Yep.
But
I would say anybody else is kind of on the table here for this.
I've got one. I've got one that was middle of the pack last year that I think is going to make a leap.
All right. Are we counting down? Are we going to try to have this
we might as well.
Same moment. All right. I'll count it down.
On the count of 3.
3.
1. You screwed that up. All right. You count it down.
3, 2, 1. Fulton. There we go.
No one listening to this is going to believe that we did not talk about this. No one.
It's legit. It is very legit. I wanted this segment to just be what it is right now, to not discuss the teams beforehand. So
this is like a preview to the Instant Reacts, where it's just unscripted fun.
I love it. Okay, what do you like about Fulton? Because I just had a conversation this week, and as I was talking to this person, I thought, man, yeah, they're kind of talking me into Fulton. Like, I should be paying more attention here.
Yeah, I just you have trust in Coach Lower, right?
Yep.
And certainly this is a conference that we talk about a lot, where every week is a potential matchup that's going to get you into the playoffs or get you to that fifth qualifying spot. And last year, Fulton just fell a little short. Looking back, lost to Lena Winslow, lost to Stockton, lost to EPC, lost to Galena, lost to Dupec. But I don't see them losing those games again this year. I think with what they've got coming back with Coach Lower, I loved my conversation with him in the offseason. It's a proud program. They got that brand new playoff board there.
Yeah.
I'm sure they want to put it to use here this season. So I think Fulton is going to be the team that makes a leap up. And again, I certainly don't think Forston's going to be 2-7 again this year, but I think Fulton is probably closer to getting back to that playoff mark.
Yeah. So when you start looking through some of the names, immediately what stood out to me, and I've known it, but I just I don't know, you got to point out Braden Myers stepped in last year as a quarterback and did phenomenal. In the game, he won our player of the week. I believe he was 14 for 14. He's perfect. Never had an incomplete pass. So I think an
argument for the best quarterback in the NUIC coming back.
Yeah, I think you could absolutely make that argument. Yeah.
If you go down, I mean, there's now granted someone's going to make a comment on that, but the way he stepped in last year and the way he played, and with an off season under his belt, and again, I just think this Fulton group's going to take that leap, and Myers is a big part of that.
Yeah. People will argue it, but I think you can make the argument about Myers for sure. And you look at Mason Keeble is back as a running back. Jonah Lutz steps in as well as a junior. Landon Liu is a senior at wide receiver that's back this year after being injured last year. So I think there's just some pieces, like we like to say, pieces in place here that, maybe that Stockton got your headlines right in our preview episode, and Lena Winslow gets the previews for obvious reasons. But yeah, I think that's a team in the Northwest Upstate Illini to kind of watch for, because they missed the playoffs last year. So it's, but they shouldn't be overlooked. So, all right. So those, Geneseo and Fulton were my big two. Those are the ones that really stood out to me. Do you have anybody else from any other conferences?
Geneseo was my big one. A team that we haven't talked about. You know what? I'm excited to see Pat Elder and Bureau Valley.
Yep.
I think new quarterback, a stable of running backs coming back. Tough matchup, and again, we're going to talk about these matchups here with Prue St. Bede in the first week. But I think a coach like that coming into a program with a lot of rich tradition that Bureau Valley hasn't had recently, but it's still there. A great coaching staff, a lot of great players coming back. Again, a team that finished like Fulton at 4-5 last year, but they were really, really close to getting into a playoff spot. I think this is going to be a natural progression for Bureau Valley this year.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good one. Because I think Farmington gets the headlines there because of how good they've been in the last few seasons. And we talked a lot about Macomb and some of the talent they return. But yeah, again, these are kind of dark horse candidates where if things go exactly correct, you know what I mean? Like you got to pull off some wins that maybe would make people do a double take. But yep, that's a good candidate there as well. Looking at a few more, I think we were kind of interested in what Havana brought back. And last year on the small side of the Lincoln Land, Havana played a couple close games, at least one really close game. Didn't they almost knock off Princeville a year ago in a kind of fluky finish? That they
it was like a last second safety or something.
Yeah. So I think like when you look at some of the pieces they have coming back, maybe that's a team to look at in the smaller side of things.
I'm gonna give you one more in the track.
Yep.
And I don't think we talked about this team much, and I wasn't on that show. I'm intrigued by Mirko.
Yep.
I'm intrigued by Mirko. You got John Baldwin and Mason Gray coming back.
Yep.
New head coach. Tough game. I'm interested to see what they look like against Monrose in week 1. But again, a program that's too good not to be in the playoffs. And so to get some returning starters back that missed a lot of time last year, I think they'll have a better season this year too. Dark horse to get into the playoffs.
Yep, there you go. Yep, that's one that when Ty and I talked in that preview episode, I was pretty high on them because of the names you mentioned. I like Tannen Whitehall coming back and the other names you mentioned. I think that there's athleticism there.
Bunch of linemen too back.
Yep. And there's athleticism there in a conference that we've said is kind of wide open with a lot of teams. I would say every team has a legitimate shot at making the playoffs if things go right. But I think we've talked a lot about the headliners are Newman and Rock Ridge. I think Mercer County could work their way in there if they play well. So, yep, that's a good one. That's a good one as well. One more I wanted to talk about briefly in 8-man football. Yep. I think that Orangeville is a dark horse candidate, maybe for like a playoff appearance, maybe a playoff win. You return Hayden Schofield, who put up huge numbers a year ago for a team that struggled, but he's legit. And I think you bring him back with a handful of other athletes. I think that's a team to look at as well.
Yeah, almost 2,000 yards rushing as a sophomore last year. No, that's a great pick.
Yep. So, all right, that was good. This was a great segment. I mean, it started off really hot with the Geneseo and the Fulton picks. So,
yeah, we nailed that for sure.
This episode of View from the West podcast is brought to you by Simulation Sports. In addition to golf simulators and batting cages, Simulation Sports provides golf club repair, custom fittings for driver shafts, and even private lessons for golf, baseball, and softball. Whether you're looking for a fun group activity or want to fine-tune your skills and equipment, Simulation Sports has something for everyone. Visit their facility at 400 South Main Street in Monmouth, Illinois, or go to thesimulationsports.com to start playing today.
At Modern Woodmen of America, service is about more than our members. It's about our community, too. We share values that include personal financial security and helping friends and neighbors in need. We're your partner helping you protect your future, and together we're making an impact here in our local communities. I'm Nate Neighbor. Find me on the Modern Woodmen of America website.
Get to know your local Modern Woodmen representative to plan for your financial future and learn about valuable member benefits. Modern Woodmen of America. Touching lives, securing futures. Securities offered through MWA Financial Services, Inc., a wholly owned subsidiary of Modern Woodmen of America.
The View from the West Player of the Week is brought to you by Breedlove Sporting Goods, Western Illinois' premier sporting goods store for uniforms, apparel, equipment, awards, and online team stores. They offer name brands such as Adidas, Under Armour, and Nike, and are extremely responsive with any inquiries. With a primary focus on the western side of the state of Illinois, Breedlove Sporting Goods is the fastest way to outfit your team. You can check them out on Facebook or at breedlovesports.com.
Let's get into week 1. Mitch, here it is. We've talked all spring to coaches. We've done all the previews. It doesn't seem real, right? It doesn't seem like we're actually here talking real football games.
Yeah, well, going to college football, right? We had college games this weekend. And as a Notre Dame fan and seeing, kickoffs in a week, one, I'm not mentally prepared for that. But two, you're right. It doesn't seem like we've gone an entire year since we last had this conversation about week 1. So feels surreal. But boy, we got a good slate of games in week 1 to kick this thing off.
Yeah, it is very real. It is here. It's time to kick off the high school football season in 2025. So here we go, Mitch. We're going to start in the Three Rivers Athletic Conference. Our coverage of the Three Rivers Athletic Conference brought to you by Simulation Sports. So thank you to them. We're starting in the track because I want to talk about Princeton at Sterling Newman. Mitch, it's
Yep.
a crossover game, but based on what we've talked about in our preview episodes, could this be in week 1 the definitive conference championship?
Yeah, could. These are the two teams I would pick from the divisions.
Yep.
That they are my two favorite in each division, respectively. So, yeah, a de facto. Weird to say that in week 1, but again, these would have been my two picks, or are my two picks to win each division.
Yep, that's what I mean. I think that it's weird saying that in week 1, but I don't think it's, out of the realm of possibility. Both these end up being their division champions in the Three Rivers, and they play each other in week 1 to decide who's the overall champ. So what do you see in this matchup? What are you interested in?
Coach LeMay has talked about the youth of his squad. Certainly, I don't mean that in a non-confident way, because again, I'm literally picking them to win their division. But how does that look in week 1 against a Princeton team that essentially is loaded again, right? How does this Newman defense, without Daniel Kelly there and a host of other kids that graduated, certainly Matt Blackard is still there. How are you prepared in week 1 at home to defend one of the all-time leading rushers in Bureau County, in Casey Etheridge? I think he needs something like 581 yards to break the all-time record. It's a vaunted attack. Quarterback's back from last year at Princeton. Towards the end of last season, the quarterback's back. A host of linemen, which we always know are Princeton's bread and butter. So this is a heavyweight fight for sure. This was a 28-14 Princeton win last year. I'm just my stock in Newman is high for the year. This game in particular, though, how will they look against, again, a Princeton team that I feel like is going to be the proverbial favorite in their division, and a team that really has a chance to go unbeaten and maybe break that, that hump of the 3A quarterfinal, because that's on their minds. And I think they have the team to do it this year, now that, right, the 3A is a little bit structured a little bit differently now. They might not run into the same teams that they've run into in the past. So this matchup is great. This is a great game to kick off week 1 in the track.
Yeah, it's a great game to kick off the excitement of high school football season for sure. But man, I wish it was week 9, put this one in week 9 if these two teams would both end up at the top of their conferences. But either way, it's a fantastic way to start. When you're talking about Newman going up against, Casey Etheridge in this Princeton offense, I struggle to think of a better head coach that I'd want to try to figure out how to stop Princeton than Mike LeMay. He's a defensive, he's a defensive-minded coach. That was when he took over the job at Newman. Newman immediately excelled defensively, and as the years have gone on, they've gotten better offensively too, now having a 3-year starter in Evan Bushman, having Jungerman back, Blackard back running the ball, and the addition of Rylan Alvarado. I just think that Newman's getting better offensively. They've always been really good defensively under Coach Mike LeMay. That's what makes this game really intriguing.
Yeah, was it last year or 2 years ago that Newman defense had something like 29 or 30 some takeaways?
Might have been.
So yep.
I
can't remember if it was last year.
I was going to say, might have been both of them. They may have had a lot of turnovers. Yeah.
With a defensive minded coach like Coach LeMay, their defense is always going to bring it. So what better way to test that against a vaunted offense from Princeton?
Yep. All right. Well, that one will be fun. That's why I wanted to start in the Three Rivers, because that game, I think, is the highlight game between two teams that are from our coverage area, right? Facing off in week 1. So a couple other matchups here. Kewanee at Erie Prophetstown, Mendota at Riverdale, Monmouth Roseville at Mercer County, Sherrard at Rock Ridge, Spring Valley Hall at Orion. So Mitch, I'll let you kind of start. Where do you want to start? And we'll kind of pick through these matchups.
Yeah, I think there's intrigue everywhere.
Yep.
I'm going to go back to the team I just talked about a couple minutes ago in Mercer County, hosting Monmouth Roseville. This was a big win for Monmouth Roseville last year. and they both have returning players. And so my intrigue goes to, can the Titans, running backs of Andrew Way and Nick Houston, can they ruin that Golden Eagle coaching debut of Fred Lucas? Or will all those names that we just talked about for Mirko, all their backs, all their linemen, are they ready to make that jump? If they come out and beat Monmouth Roseville in week 1, boy, that's a statement to the entire conference that Mirko's ready to play.
Yeah, that's a really exciting matchup when you're talking about Monmouth Roseville returning as the defending conference champions on their side of things, with the intrigue of what Mercer County has. Yeah, you nailed it. That's a matchup to definitely watch for. How about Kewanee at Erie Prophetstown? Mitch, you titled it, I think, correctly here. Keegan Winkler and Ace La Follette battle, battling it out here. 2 athletes on the field, I think, really, going up against each other. Erie Prophetstown won this game last year 13-6. I think maybe that was a bit of a surprise outcome because we were, high on Kewanee to start the season, and they were at home in that one. This year it's at EP, so just kind of an intriguing matchup here as well.
I like the Riverdale hosting Mendota matchup, right? You've got Jim Eustace debuting there with Mendota, trying to, I think they've lost 12 straight, so trying to break that losing streak against an upstart Riverdale team that we really like. This was a Riverdale win last year, 23-12. So again, can Riverdale take that first step, right? We've been talking about them getting back into the playoff picture. They were so close last year. It's a winnable game. I don't mean that in a poor way against Mendota. I'm just, making mention that Mendota has questions. Certainly with a great head coach, he might put those to rest pretty quickly. He's got a good stable of players coming back, but just been really excited about Riverdale last year and what they look like this year.
I think it's interesting to see how Riverdale comes out and performs as kind of the clear favorite for maybe the first time in a little while, right? I think last year they won some games, but maybe they weren't the favorite going into a lot of those games. This year, I think certainly they're going into this one as the favorite, right? Like based on what Mendota did last year, and you look at the kind of the excitement growing in Riverdale. So I think that's an interesting dynamic there to look at. How do they handle being the favorite? And I think that head coach Guy Derricks and these players have thought about it. They've talked a lot about it. I think they're ready for the moment, but it's just a little bit of a different look and feel.
No doubt. And then you talked to both of the quarterbacks at the kickoff party, right? We get to see Cale Filler and Colin Schweigen in their debuts for this year. Schweigen's junior campaign, his 3rd year under center, and Cale Filler just continuing to put up incredible numbers his entire career. Both these teams, Rock Ridge and Orion, won big in this matchup last season. Hall's got a new coach in Nick Sterling. It'll be his debut as the Hall head coach, certainly a former player there during Hall's really good run when they won a state championship. So intrigued by every game here in the track, as always. I like the the crossovers in week 1.
Yeah. Well, I think like we talked about it on the preview episode, and Mitch, I know you and I have talked about it several times, that this season, top to bottom, is going to be a lot of really good matchups that are going to be hard to predict, because especially on the Mississippi side of things, or wait, Mississippi or Rock? Which one is Rock Ridge and Newman and all them? That's
the Rock.
That's the Rock. There we go. Stocking would call it small. He'd be incorrect, but
he would be very incorrect. Yes.
Okay. So on the Rock side, like we've said, every team I think is eyeing the playoffs.
Right. All 6. Yes.
Yeah. And now on the Mississippi side, I'll say there's a little bit of a drop off when you get maybe past the Monmouth, Roseville, Princeton, Kewanee, but I still think based on some of these crossovers we're going to see throughout the season, well, early in the season, then again at the end of the season, there's just going to be a lot of good matchups with a lot of teams that have a legitimate claim, to wanting a spot in the playoffs, that they really have a shot to make it. So it's going to be interesting. So, all right, should we jump into the Western Big Six here, Mitch?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, let's read through the matchups, then I'll let you start kind of calling out what you like. So
Okay.
LaSalle Peru at United Township. This is a rematch from the game a year ago. You have Dunlap at Galesburg, which I believe is also a non-conference rematch from a game a year ago. Geneseo goes on the road to Rochelle. Moline goes on the long road trip to Rockwood Summit down in Missouri. This is a rematch from a game we saw a year ago. Quincy is hosting Boonville, Missouri. You have Maple Park Caneland traveling to Rock Island. You have Walther Christian is going to Rock Island Alleman. And Sterling is on the road at John Schlemmer's alma mater at Metamora, which is a game we've seen over the past couple years. So there's the slate of the Western Big Six. They start the first 2 weeks in non-conference play. What do you see here, Mitch? Which matchups catch your eye?
And, certainly as you just described, none of these are going to impact the Western Big Six this year. This weekend, next week, the Western Big Six slate in our non-conference. But if you listen to the Western Big Six preview, I'm high on UT this year, and they've got a very, very tough matchup in week one. LaSalle Peru is a tough group. The first-year head coach in J.J. Raffleson, he's been an assistant there for the past couple of seasons. But the thing with, what are they, the Pirates?
Cavaliers.
Cavaliers, that's right. Sophomore quarterback Marion Persich I think he already has D1 offers.
Yep.
6'3", dual threat quarterback, can beat you both ways. This UT defense gave up the second least amount of points last season. We talked about in the preview of that being a sticking point of maybe what will fuel their run towards a potential Big Six championship this year. So they're going to get tested in week one by, thinking down the line here, one of, if not the best quarterback they'll face all season. They get it right away in week one. They get this matchup at home. It was a close loss last year for UT, and that was one thing that we talked about in that preview. Had they won that game, they would have been knocking on the playoffs. So that game, to me, intrigues me the most, followed closely by Geneseo going to Rochelle.
Yeah, so the Geneseo going on the road to Rochelle. We'll talk about Rochelle a couple times this season. They play a game later in the year against Lena Winslow, which is a really intriguing matchup in itself. But for this week, it's Rochelle. They were, I believe, 10-2 a year ago, 10-win team in the 5A playoffs. They return a rushing attack led by Dylan Manning, who's a sophomore, and senior Roman Villalobos, 2 1,000-yard rushers from a year ago that are back there again. So they're a dangerous squad. Man, I you look at Geneseo, I give them credit here because they're challenging themselves in the non-conference, and they're going to be challenged in the Western Big Six as well.
Yeah, when this is a bit of a change. You think about Geneseo last year, they played a Chicago public school in week one and then an out-of-state team out of Wisconsin, and it really got off to a quick 2-0 start. It's not as easy this time around. Certainly a group like Rochelle, 2 dynamic running backs coming back, a group defensively for Geneseo that is going to need to improve in Western Big Six play. Certainly when you talk about rushing attacks like Moline, right? Geneseo gave up 51 to Moline last year, a primary rushing attack there. So how quickly can, again, a defensive-minded coach like Coach Furlong can tighten that group up, because they're going to get tested by not only a really good group of players, but just a traditionally great program in Rochelle on the road at Rochelle in week one.
Yeah. As much as we appreciate the Three Rivers and, technically being a closed conference where the teams cross over and play each other, man, I do love like the Western Big Six where they have some truly traditional non-conference games, right? Where there really are across the board. Every team is picking from, different areas of our state, different states in general. I know it's kind of sometimes a headache for athletic directors, but it's a lot of fun. It's just cool to talk through some of these teams and these matchups.
Were Geneseo and Rochelle in the same conference at one time?
Yeah, I think I've walked the sidelines at a Geneseo Rochelle game. Maybe it might have been in Rochelle, actually. Yeah.
Was that the NIC or what was that?
It probably was the Northern Illinois Big 12. Was it the NIB 12 for a while? But it would have been in the traditional NCIC, I think, back in the day.
NCIC, that's what I was thinking of. NCIC, okay.
Yep. So there you go. Good recall on that one. I want to see this Moline at Rockwood Summit game.
It was a battle
Yep.
last year. Didn't Moline kind of have to scratch their way to tie it, and then they won in overtime at home?
Yeah, it was an unbelievable game, unbelievable celebration that night.
Yeah, so that was in week 1 a year ago. So now that, Moline will head down there to Rockwood Summit, really good program. There's a Moline connection in there somewhere with their coach, who I believe is from Moline, or an assistant coach that's from Moline. So that's kind of where this connection came from. But I mean, again, it's great that Moline is stepping out and really challenging themselves, right? Finding a game that, is going to test their players early and kind of see, hey, you think you're ready in the preseason, but are you really there? Are you really ready? And they'll find out in this one.
Well, that's what Coach Morrissey said, that he kind of his fun tidbit to us was that they have probably the most challenging 2 non-conference games in this conference, with this game against Rockwood Summit, and then they play Sycamore in week 2.
Yeah.
So again, doesn't have any bearing on how they, how the Western Big Six plays out, but I think we've seen in years past teams that challenge themselves in those non-conference games set themselves up pretty well, for the once they start the slate of conference games.
Yep. So a couple other matchups here. That Walther Christian at Rock Island Alleman is just really cool in general, that there's going to be Alleman varsity football back on a Friday night. That's great. And they start the season at home. I think that's really exciting stuff.
And I think that's a winnable game. Walther Christian doesn't always have a power of a group. And so what a story that would be. Win or lose, it's going to be a great story to have the Pioneers back and have home football there. But I do think this is a winnable game. And for Coach Tom Barber to get off with a win, what a story that would be.
Yep, absolutely. A couple other ones here. Boonville, Missouri at Quincy. Mitch, you actually have a little bit of info here on Boonville. Give us the scoop.
Yeah, the Pirates, they went 9-3 last year. They finished second in their district, which again, I don't know. Maybe that's good. No clue. I do know that they have a great player in offensive and defensive linemen. Missouri commit Braylon Ellison, so he'll be looking to disrupt this new look Quincy attack, right?
Yeah.
Whoever they're going to throw out at quarterback, all of their new playmakers, they're going to get tested there up front by a big-time Missouri commit, like I said, in Braylon Ellison. So the Missouri game that Quincy played last year wasn't against Boonville. I think it was against Capital City. Was really the only game in the regular season that I believe they trailed in. It was certainly their closest game. So maybe that Missouri level of competition is a bit higher than I'm giving it credit for. But again, looking forward to seeing Quincy, as I just said, almost entirely a new look Quincy group, but an experienced Quincy group from all the playing time they got last year and all those big wins.
Yeah. So we started this episode with the discussion about dark horse teams in each conference. Quincy can't really qualify as a dark horse based on what they've done, but I will admit that, when we talked through the episode in the Big Six, we were really excited about Moline, really excited about United Township, and Quincy's there. We're talking about Quincy, but maybe there's so many unknowns that we're not giving them quite enough credit, and I guess they have the chance to go out and prove it here.
Yeah, well, Rick Little made the trip to the kickoff show.
Yep.
I don't know if he would do that if he wasn't excited about his group. So, and I said on that preview show, the Western Big Six preview show, will not shock me if Quincy wins the Western Big Six.
Yep.
Won't shock me at all. I didn't pick them to win, but won't shock me if they go 3 in a row.
Yep, absolutely. All right, a couple more games here. Maple Park Caneland, a traditional, great program, makes the trip to Rock Island. I got the chance to see the Rocks in their week 0 scrimmage against Davenport Central, and there were some flashes. You saw some athletes getting to the edge, making some big plays, making some big tackles. So I think there's, some confidence, there's some momentum building there in Rock Island. This is a good program, though, that comes into Rock Island on Friday.
Yeah, the Knights been the postseason each of the last 7 seasons, so they're going to be looking to make that 8 straight here coming into the Rocks home stadium. The last one that we didn't talk about, well, there's 2. We did talk about Dunlop and Galesburg, I believe. But Sterling at Metamora, like you said, Coach Slemmer's alma mater. Metamora has a new head coach. Nick Delinsky. I believe he was an assistant for something like 20 years at Metamora, I think. So they've got a couple of good dynamic players coming back. They got a quarterback in Stephen Petrie who threw for 981 yards with 8 touchdowns last year, also ran for 512 with 10 touchdowns. So dual threat quarterback there. If it's not him, it might be their speedy running back in, I'm going to say it's Jaden Cranford, piled up 974 yards on the ground with 12 touchdowns. So a very dynamic attack from Metamora.
Yeah, they're a good program, year in and year out. And this is always a good, fun, non-conference matchup, especially with the Schlemmer, Coach Schlemmer connection there, that he's a Metamora grad. So, that's a good challenge for Sterling to start their season this year on the road at Metamora. All right, should we get into the Big Northern Conference? The first time, here we go, Mitch, the first games we're covering in the Big Northern Conference. Let's get into it. We got to start, of course, Byron back on the field this season. Perennial favorite here. They've been the favorite the last few seasons, and they've proven it. They start on the road at Rock Falls. You have Dixon, who's right there with them, kind of, knocking at the door. Dixon at Rockford Lutheran. You have Oregon at Genoa Kingston, North Boone at Winnebago, and Stillman Valley in a non-conference game at Marengo. So I guess we'll start with Byron, with the Tigers, seeing them back on the field, knowing kind of where their season ended last year, inches short in the second round of the playoffs. Man, there's a lot of motivation here with a lot of experience coming back.
Yeah, no question. Really looking forward to seeing Caden Considine and Andrew Talbert back on the field once again for this Tiger group. And look, no disrespect to Rock Falls. This could be a tune-up game for Byron as they really might be looking ahead to that Dixon matchup in week 2. But again, new coach there in Rock Falls, going to try and get some things started, get that program back to where they're trying to get to. But it's a tough task when you've got Byron coming into town in week 1. So, looking forward again to seeing this Byron group as they start their campaign to get back to the state championship.
Yeah, I will say I read an article from Friday Night Drive previewing Rock Falls this season and getting to learn a little bit more about head coach David Shavira, and reading about how he had reached out to and had conversations with John Schlemmer from Sterling and from Mike LeMay from Sterling Newman. So I think that is a smart move if you're a first-year head coach jumping in Rock Falls, is relying on some local nearby head coaches that have had a lot of success in some programs that have played at a really high level. And it was really interesting. I encourage everyone, like we always do, go out. If you don't, subscribe to Friday Night Drive. I love their content out there. And, I think that when you look at things he can learn from both of those head coaches, I think that's, that doesn't automatically equate to wins on the field, but man, it's a great first step. It's a great building block. And there were real takeaways he was getting out of these conversations that he is now instilled at Rock Falls. So I like that as a start for them. So just an interesting article and kind of something to, kind of keep tabs on as the season goes along. You mentioned Dixon. Byron and Dixon will play each other next week. This week, Dixon will kick off their season on the road at Rockford Lutheran. There's a lot of excitement around this Dixon Dukes program for very good reason.
Getting Landon Knigge back on the field as their lead back, that'll be great. Jagger Kemp, the new QB1. They've got a lot of linemen coming back on the offensive side. So I expect, again, we talked about it in the Big Northern preview. I do believe that the conference will be decided in week 2. But this is always a tough group in Rockford Lutheran, a playoff team from last year, traditionally a playoff team. I don't believe they have as much coming back as years prior, and Dixon certainly does have quite a bit coming back. So just looking ahead, I think Byron and Dixon are going to have comfortable wins this week, and that's going to be the topic of conversation of next week's episode.
Well, next week, we'll certainly be talking a whole lot about Byron and Dixon. But in this week, in week 1 in the Big Northern Conference, I want to talk about Oregon at Genoa Kingston. That seems like a huge game. I know it's only week 1. There's 8 games left to be played. But when you're looking at playoff impact,
Oregon and Genoa Kingston, both 5-5 last year. They made the playoffs, lost in their first round game, but there's a lot of reason to be intrigued by these teams maybe not only getting back to the playoffs, but taking that next step. And I think that this matchup is critical for them.
I agree with everything you just said. I think the same thing about the next game. We will be talking about North Boone and Winnebago. So, two big games in the Big Northern that may not have implications on who wins the conference, but it could on who makes the playoffs, and who might finish in that third and fourth spot this year as it did last year. You mentioned Oregon. I like what they've got coming back. I think that's a group that will finish better than 5-4 last year. But all these groups, the group of four, we'll call it Oregon, Genoa Kingston, North Boone, and Winnebago. They've all got a good group of players coming back. And with week one matchups, again, do you want to be looking back at the end of the season, looking back at your week one games and thinking, man, if I could have just won that one, we'd be sitting in a playoff spot right now. All four of those teams are going to have that mindset going into week one on Friday.
This is Dan Pearson of Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Our FCA team of staff, board, and volunteers is pleased to support View from the West with Greg and Mitch. Our Northwest Illinois FCA team is 3 teams in 1, serving coaches and athletes in the Three Rivers, Northern Illinois, and Greater Peoria areas, all with schools covered by View from the West. For more information, email me at danpearson@fca.org. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
Hey there, local high school football fans. This is Sean Considine, a Byron Tiger and Iowa Hawkeye alumni, and now an LPL financial advisor. I'm passionate about high school football because it's the purest form of the game where communities come together. You can find me in my Byron office until I run off the football practice. I'm happy to talk about football or the markets. I'll leave that up to you. I want to wish everyone across Illinois a safe, successful, and memorable high school football season.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC.
Hey, this is Brett Bielma, the head coach of the Fighting Illini from Prophetstown, Illinois. You're listening to the View from the West podcast.
All right, should we get into the Lincoln Land Conference here, Mitch?
Yep.
Why don't I hand off to you? You read us the matchups.
All right, we can do that. In the LLC, it's all business there. Illini West is going to host LVC. Knoxville goes on the road to Elmwood Brimfield. Farmington hosts West Hancock. Macomb on the road to Rushville Industry. Bureau Valley goes on the road to Peru St. Bede. And then on the small side, you've got Annawan Weathersfield going to A-Town. South Fulton hosts Stark County. Roval Williamsfield going to Monmouth United. And Havana on the road to Princeville.
The game I want to start with here is a crossover game between both conferences, but Macomb and Rushville Industry, two of the teams that I'm maybe most excited about from both sides of this conference, playing each other in week one. It'll be Macomb on the road at Rushville Industry. Man, I kind of hope Chris Dewar is at that game. I hope he picks that game covering for Muddy River Sports because, that'd be a good one, I think.
Or maybe we should reach out to him real quick and tell him that we know what his travel plans should be in his new assignment.
That's right. That's right.
At Muddy River Sports. No, you nailed that. Really liked what Macomb did last year. Excited to see what they've got coming back. But Rushville Industry, a great group last season. Our friends down there with the Rockets. Like you mentioned, it's great that we have these crossover games in week one. I'm looking down this. There's a lot of great matchups.
Yep.
I like Bureau Valley going to Peru St. Bede.
Yep.
Again, mentioned excited to see what Bureau Valley looks like with Pat Elder as head coach. Peru St. Bede's got a first-year head coach in Jack Brady. St. Bede is a tough place to go on the road to. So they're going to get challenged right away in that non-conference matchup in week one.
Yeah. I believe, was Jack Brady the quarterback we talked about several years ago? Do you remember?
Name sounds familiar. I'm not sure if a name like Jack Brady, not the most unique name, but also wouldn't surprise me because again, that name sounds familiar as a former player. And now it could be maybe was an assistant after school. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think he is a former player at St. Bede. I don't know if he was that recent that we covered him, but I need to read the article.
I mean, if it was, I mean, he's a low 20-year-old head coach.
Probably.
So yeah, and some good players. God, is it Gino Ferrari is their quarterback? He's a left-handed kid.
Yeah.
Golly, what a name that is, Gino Ferrari.
Yeah.
But again, excited to see what Pat Elder has in store. Uniview alert there in Bureau Valley. If you haven't seen that new helmet they got rocking.
Yeah, I like the new look. I'm a fan of a unique logo on the side, and that storm is a custom, storm font with a lightning bolt inside of the O. I really like that. Mitch, tell me, what is your you've seen Bureau Valley for a long time. You played against them in their heyday when they were really rocking and rolling, and that's kind of their iconic look, right? What is your perfect Bureau Valley look? I mean, as far as a helmet and the color scheme and all of it.
Yeah, when I played and in their heyday of making state championship games, it was a team that was full of power and full of speed. And when I think of Bureau Valley, whether it's PTSD or whatever it is, when they're in their all Navy, and if you go back and watch clips of the state championship game or those teams, and they had that traditional bolt helmet, but all their helmets were filled with pride stickers, it just looked like a group that you were going to lose to. And so, like you mentioned, it's a very unique design on the new helmet. It doesn't, completely look totally different from what they've had. It just replaced the lightning bolt with the storm watermark. But yeah, it looks like it's some sort of custom font. But me and helmets, I'm a traditionalist. Maybe it'll grow on me.
Okay.
But that bolt helmet for me is a classic. And you know what? They can always, like Newman did a couple years ago, they can always maybe have an alternate helmet night one night. It's just placing stickers in a different part of the helmet. No big deal.
All right, let's get real nitpicky here. Do you prefer the Chargers NFL bolt where it's rounded, or the Air Force bolt where it's more of the direct line going straight ahead? Because they've used
the Chargers
both.
one.
You like the Chargers one?
Yeah. I like the Chargers. And the Chargers one is the Bureau Valley one. So yeah, I like it. It's just a nice look.
Yeah. I believe that the last couple years, though, Bureau Valley was using the more of the Air Force, direct bolt.
Are they?
Yeah, I think they were. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I gotta pay attention more. I know what their helmet looks like now.
Yeah.
I got that down, Pat.
I will say what I love about that helmet is we talked about the font on the side. The bolt is down the middle. That's their center stripe. That's a pretty cool detail.
Yeah, we do like that for sure.
All right, there you go.
Unsure if prize stickers are involved this year, but we'll find out pretty quick.
There you go, Coach Elder. We just gave you 5 minutes on your uniform and your helmet alone. So
went completely off track with that.
Yeah. All right, let's keep talking LLC and the matchups we got here.
I like Knoxville at Elmwood Brimfield.
Yep.
A Knoxville group that went 2-7 last year. Marty Turner's now head coach there. I don't believe they're going to go 2-7 this year. I think they're a group that's going to make a leap. Elmwood Brimfield, a fantastic team last year.
Yep.
So really excited to see what they've got back. Illini West, we talked about, their run to the playoffs, winning 6 in a row. A winnable game here in week 1 against LVC. Excited to see what the Chargers have coming back. On the small side, we talked about that Havana Princeville game being a great game last year. I think both of those teams are going to be, Princeville made the playoffs last year. I think Havana has a shot to do it. And you know what? Of that kind of group of 4 on the small side, I like that Anawan Weathersfield going to A-Town game.
Yeah.
I think A-Town is going to be a more formidable this year than they were last year. Anawan Weathersfield is going to be a great team. I think they are my favorite to win that division, but I think A-Town is going to have a good year.
I think when you look through the list of these games here on this small side of the LLC, I think we're just going to learn a lot, right? I think that Anno on Wethersfield, we have some expectation for based on what we see on paper. But to your point, we could learn something about A-Town here if they show up and play really well. South Fulton and Stark County, I think we're going to learn a lot in that matchup. Roval Williamsfield and United hosting that one. We're going to learn something about this United Red Storm team in the second year of Coach Goodwin. And then Havana, a team that I think could be a dark horse candidate to, improve their record from last year, going on the road to a tough Princeville. It's just, there's a lot of matchups. I think we're going to learn some stuff early on.
Talking back through our preview of this conference, there's a lot of groups here, or a lot of teams here that bring back 6, 7, 8 starters on offense alone. And then you're talking in total 10, 12, 13, up to 15 starters on offense and defense coming back. So, I have my favorites that I think are going to win each division, but it won't surprise me if someone else wins it because there is a lot to learn. And I think every week we might have to look at these matchups just a little bit closer because I think we're going to see some surprises in this conference this year.
Yep. All right, let's get into the Northwest Upstate Illini. We got Lena Winslow at Forreston, Morrison going on the road to Galena, Fulton going on the road to Eastland Pearl City, Dakota at Dupec, and Benton, Wisconsin traveling to Stockton. So Stockton has the non-conference game here in week 1. Every team in the NUIC will have one non-conference game throughout the season. So what do you see here, Mitch, in the matchups in the NUIC?
Well, I think you look right at the top at Lena Winslow going to Forreston. Traditionally a great game. Forreston did not have the season that they are traditionally used to. But I think they're going to bring a lot back. But it's tough to get the gear started when you have a group with Lena Winslow with everything that they've got coming into town in week 1. The game I'm looking forward to the most is that Fulton at EPC game.
Yeah,
I don't think there's any game that has more intrigue than that one than week 1 here.
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about an Eastland Pearl City team that brings back Draven Zier from a year ago, a really impact player, and then Fulton, who we talked about early in this episode about being a potential dark horse type of team. They missed the playoffs a year ago, but they're both going to be fighting for that playoff spot in the Northwest Upstate Illini. It's a lot like what we talked about with Oregon and Genoa Kingston in the Big Northern. This is a huge matchup in week 1. I mean, I know, again, 8 weeks left, but this is an important game.
Yeah. Again, you're talking about if you're in week 7 and week 8 trying to find one more win and you're looking back and thinking if I could have done this differently. These are two teams that I believe Eastern Pro City, a playoff team last year, certainly, but I believe Fulton's going to be making that charge. So, can Braden Myers work his magic against an EPC defense that had to replace their entire defensive backfield? Certainly their offense is going to click. So that Fulton defense is going to have to be sharp as well. But again, that matchup, boy, that's I don't know where Kyle Kampmeyer's going in week 1. Maybe he told us already and I forgot. Wouldn't surprise me if he goes to Lena Winslow at Forreston, but boy, it'd be hard to pass up a Fulton and EPC game in week 1.
That's true. We will be eagerly anticipating Kyle giving his announcement on that because I can't wait to see where he goes week to week and hear his coverage. Kyle Kampmeyer will definitely be in on some of these instant reacts more often than not because there's just going to be a lot to talk about in the Northwest Upstate Illini and in 8-man football.
Is Stockton Lena Winslow in week 2 or week 3? It's week 2, right?
I think it's week 2. Yeah.
Yeah, because they play Rochelle week 3.
Yeah.
And speaking of Stockton, right, they're starting at home, out of state, out of conference. I don't know anything about Benton, Wisconsin. So just I want to see what this Stockton group, if they can live up to the hype in week 1. I want to see, if Mark Detweiler and Eli Larson, Noah Larson, Jeremiah Luke there, first conference O-lineman, can this group block out the noise that they have heard, not just from this show, but from a lot of outlets about their prospectus on them this year? How will they come out? Will they just punch this team in the mouth getting ready for Lena Winslow? Are they looking ahead to Lena Winslow and maybe not playing sharp? Just really looking forward to seeing how Stockton looks here on Friday.
Yep. It's a team that we talked a lot about, that you and Kyle talked a lot about in our NUIC preview. There's hype around it. I'm excited to see them on the field. I was there last year when their season came to a close, but before that Lena Winslow game kind of got out of hand, that atmosphere on a playoff Saturday was excellent. It is just, it's great, and I'm excited for that program to hopefully get back to those games again, because we've talked a lot about it. It's maybe one of our favorite venues, and it's a program that is just steeped in tradition, and you want to see that on a Saturday afternoon. So the long way to go for there, but it's a kickoff, this Friday night. So, all right, let's talk some 8-man football. Mitch, before we even get into all the matchups, how about Milledgeville at Amboy, the rematch of the state championship game in week 1?
Yep. This is the last, conference or division that we're covering. There are a slew of week 1 games that we've just talked about that are just going to be bangers here in week 1. And you talked about it, the state championship rematch, Milledgeville at Amboy, probably the 2 favorites to get back, depending on how the playoff, bracket shakes out. But really, really like on paper what Milledgeville comes back. And I think if there's a year that Amboy is quote unquote gettable with players that they lost, I think Milledgeville is the top team to think that they can be the ones to overtake them. So we'll get it right away in week 1. And as you said, what a way to kick off 8-man.
Yeah, I like Amboy and the program and what they've done. They stepped up last year when, admittedly, Kyle and I both were high on Milledgeville. Did you pick Milledgeville as well? Was it a clean sweep between all 3 of us last year in the state championship game?
Yeah. I believe I did pick Milledgeville.
Yeah.
Yep.
And needless to say, the coaches let us hear about it afterwards. So they stepped up and they proved it in that game defiantly. There was no doubt about it.
Doubling down on Milledgeville again. That didn't scare me any.
So my point being, Amboy showed up in the big moments a lot, right? They're back-to-back state champions for very good reason. This is a great program that they've built out there playing 8-man football now. But I think that it's a little bit more open than it has been in years past. I think we knew how much they were bringing back. This year, there's some names there, but maybe not as much. So I think to your point, what Milledgeville has, I think it's a really interesting 8-man division from top to bottom. Couple other teams to look at, other matchups to look at: West Carroll at West Central, Orangeville at Alden Hebron, BPC at Polo, Ridgewood at River Ridge, and Hiawatha at Galva for the teams we cover in our coverage area for 8-man football. Polo's always good, right? Coach Alston and what they do there, that's always a good program in 8-man. They'll be competitive. Orangeville goes on the road to Alden Hebron. I want to see that game. I want to see how that one plays out, because I think that this Orangeville team, I think, will be on the rise.
Yeah, you mentioned it, Hayden Schofield coming back. Ridgewood, new coach there. Intrigued to see what the Spartans look like. But yeah, all the attention here in 8-man in week 1 is certainly going to be on that Milledgeville at Amboy game. And even though it's week 1, we're going to learn a lot about what we might see the rest of the year. Certainly.
Yep. So there you go, Mitch. That wraps us up. We are all but ready for the kickoff of high school football.
What game do you think that we just talked about has the most implications on the postseason in week 1?
That's a great question. Oh, that's a really good question. Let me look back real quick here as we're scanning through.
I know what you're going to say too.
You already know what I'm going to say.
We could do the countdown thing again and say it at the same time.
All right, yeah, let's do it.
Because I'm that confident that I know what you're going to go.
All right, let's do it.
All right, 3, 2, 1. Fulton at EPC.
Oh, see, no. I was going to say Oregon and Genoa Kingston.
Okay. All right.
Hey,
we tried.
We tried. 2 out of 3 ain't bad, right?
That's right. And you're absolutely right. We talked about that. We think that's a group of 5-5 teams from last year, both playoff teams. But again, who's going to be in that third slot in the Big Northern, I think is going to be determined in either that game or the North Boone Winnebago game. But just going back to the NUIC, with every game being so vital week after week, I think when we look back at week 9, maybe both these teams will be playoff teams, but I think we'll look back and say, man, that Fulton and EPC game in week 1 set the tone. So really looking forward to that game.
Yeah, you're exactly right. So exciting.
And the reason that it's not any game in the track is certainly because those are all crossover games.
Yep.
It doesn't have any of the games the first 2 weeks in the Western Big Six. Don't have any implications there. So that's again, if you're playing at home, that's why we're going to those specific games. But for good reason too. Those are both really good matchups. No matter what the other games were, those are good matchups.
Yep. I completely agree.
And Milledgeville Amboy.
Well,
throw that in there too.
That's true. Yeah, that's a huge matchup.
But both of those teams are going to be playoff teams. So
to your point, yes, I would agree that the matchups we brought up are ones where that could be fighting for that 5th or 6th win. I believe that Milledgeville and Amboy will be just fine. It'll be a good indication of how good they are down the road. But yep. All right. So here we go. Hey, you know what's really exciting? The next time people hear our voices will be live on Friday after we have results from these games. That's really exciting.
Knock on wood. Yes, that will be the next time that they hear it.
Hey, we've already tested it and gone live, so you know.
Yeah.
So no.
Yeah, and a shout out to the handful of people who saw that mistakenly. we got eagle eyes out there, always ready for the latest alert that we're live or that we put out something new.
Like I said, if you want to see when we're live, subscribe on YouTube, follow along, and you will get that notification, maybe whether we want you to or not. So no.
Yeah, right.
No.
Never know what you're going to get.
But for real, from here on out, we will be live on Fridays. I'm going to say 10:15. That time might be a little flexible, but we will keep people informed on X. And certainly if you subscribe on YouTube, you'll see when we're up and live. You'll get a notification. So I'm just really excited. I think that's the next logical step here. I can't wait to talk about games in real time on Friday night and have people interacting with us.
You know what I'm excited about, Greg, is that you are going to be in your command center. Well, no, you'll be at some football games on Friday nights, but there may be nights that you get to watch some more games. You've been on the road for the Score in recent years. I'm excited to have you around maybe a little more on Friday nights watching games or being close to the action, because I got to, if you see me on video, I'm stretching my fingers here for the X account. My phone battery is just going to melt. So yeah, it'll be fun on Friday nights, I think, for a variety of reasons. But we got to kind of get into that mentality already here in 3 days after this episode airs.
Yeah. So you kind of alluded to it, a little peek behind the curtain. My son will be playing high school football this season. So he will be a kicker. And I think people have heard about it. I live actually on the Iowa side of the river. I'm in Davenport, it's in the Quad Cities. I still love, obviously, my Illinois high school football, but as I've settled my family, we lived in Iowa.
We talk about Illinois football, and neither one of us live in Illinois.
So, maybe long term, it's good that I don't have to talk about the program that my son will be involved in. That makes things a little easier from that aspect. But no, so my son will be kicking for Davenport Central. And Mitch, I didn't realize, I assumed that JV games, sophomores, are on Fridays before the varsity game. Well, that's not how it works. They actually do freshman games on Friday before varsity because there's less players that cross over between both games. So I thought my schedule would look relatively similar to what it has in years past, where I would be traveling out to games, getting highlights, and then I find out my son is going to be playing, so I'm going to be tied up early Fridays. But I would say, even if I stick around for a little bit of a varsity game, I'll still be home in time to watch some on Huddle or watch some live on YouTube or on NFHS and be able to compile some notes and jump into our live episodes on Fridays. So I think it kind of all works perfect. It's a perfect storm. It makes me more available in here. I'll miss some highlights. I'll miss being out on Fridays. I'll make those happen here or there. I will be on the sidelines on Saturdays in the fall. No worries about that. I will be back for those.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, I'll have the command center ready to go. And as always, appreciate all of our followers and listeners who send in their updates from the games that they're at. Please continue to do that. It's appreciated more than you know when I get an update or I get a final score before I see it, or before, if I can't watch every game, and certainly depending on the week, I might be tuned into one more than another. So again, shout out to all of our followers and fans who send in us updates of the games that they're at, and that helps us tremendously getting those final scores in. If you've sent in plays or sent in stats, again, please do that. Coaches, if you're listening, please make sure we're on your distro for any stats. And we'll continue to make this Friday night kind of recap and live reacts as entertaining as possible with scores and notes. So again, looking forward to interacting with you all virtually on X every Friday night for the next 9 weeks.
I love it. Quick side note, just so coaches and athletic directors and anyone else who needs to know, we will plan on recording weekly episodes on Sunday nights. So if coaches, athletic directors have stats, if there's any way possible that they can be uploaded, they can be sent to us, they can be updated and in whatever format you want, if we can have them by Sunday night, even if it's not till 7 o'clock at night, that's great. That will really help us to kind of just add information to the show. So I know sometimes that's a tight turnaround, and I just appreciate any information we can get.
No doubt about it.
Yep. So, all right. Well, Mitch, you already kind of alluded to it. Thank you to everyone who will be following on X, who already follows and subscribes on YouTube. We appreciate it. We love it. We are so excited for this football season. We're excited for these weekly episodes. We are definitely excited for the live instant reacts coming to you Friday nights. So the next time you hear us, we'll be knowing some final scores. So thank you to everyone who listens. We will talk to you on Friday night.
That'll do it for this week's episode of View from the West. Thank you so much for listening. I encourage you to go out to Apple Podcasts or Podbean and subscribe so you can follow along, and downloads will come automatically every week. You can follow along on Twitter at ViewFromWestPod. You can also email me if you're interested in being a sponsor, viewfromwestpod@gmail.com. Thanks so much. We'll see you next week.